Okay, Mr. Chinedu, good evening, sir. Can you request to join? Can you request to join as a host? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chinedu, good evening, sir. Request to join. Can you request to join as a host? Awesome, awesome. Welcome, good evening, sir. Mr. Chinedu? Awesome, awesome. Welcome, good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm struggling to join the live on my laptop.
Oh, I don't think that is possible. Tried that some time ago and it wasn't possible. Yeah,
I see.
yes. I think they've not added that feature for PCs, just mobile phones.
Struggling to join the live on my laptop.
Oh, I don't think that is.
Okay.
Awesome, awesome. Good evening once again.
Good evening.
Yeah. Are you set for us tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. My
It's
notes
good.
are actually on my phone, so it's going to be um
Okay. Should we give you some minutes to transfer maybe to your system?
uh, okay. 1 minute.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. All right. We're ready.
Awesome, awesome. So great to have you on the show tonight. In fact, I
Yes.
came with my notepad because I know I'm going to write a lot. Thank you for honoring our invite.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to join in live.
All right. So it's a recorded session after which it will be published on our various social media handles. Just to give you a heads up.
Thank you.
Yes. So, welcome once again. For those who are just joining in, Mr. Chinedu is an amazing person. He's a change agent and is the founder of Greater Nigeria Initiative. He's also the founder of Credible Elections for Inclusive Development, that focuses on capacity building for marginalized groups and persons. It's an honor to have you tonight, Mr. Chinedu.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is mine.
Yes. So I think I would like to begin by hearing your thoughts as a capacity builder with your work at Credible Elections for Inclusive Development. You guys are focused on building capacity for marginalized group and women. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about women's participation in elections or in the political space generally in Nigeria and then Africa at large?
All right. Thank you very much for that excellent question. Thank you also for having me. So at Credible Elections for Inclusive Development, the core of our work, as I mentioned, is advocacy and grassroots mobilization around support for those in the marginalized groups politically, especially women and young people. So as you've mentioned, we've discovered, and I think your topic speaks to it very succinctly, the successes, the challenges, and indeed the way forward. So I believe, in fact, in my notes, I stated that the only successes we've recorded are successful attempts. And that is simply it. We've had successful attempts from the First Republic, the Second Republic, and according to National Gender Policy, which is a current and working policy in Nigeria, although working only on paper and not working to the letter of the law, we've discovered that that policy insists on a 35% affirmative action for women participation in politics. Yes, but we've discovered that that policy is quite ambitious because it goes beyond the global 30% that is required. So they've made quite an ambitious policy, an ambitious policy that is not working. And the policy is ambitious, yet highly flawed, highly non-functional. And we've discovered that the root causes of this non-participation, or in what I would call exclusion, would be the patriarchal system that we found ourselves in, that has been engendered further rather by religion and even culture. So this patriarchal system has, made most of these female candidates or female aspirants to believe that it's a man's world, and that is a wrong ideology. But this ideology has gone beyond ideology and has been perpetrated over and over again. So some 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to have an interface physically with the uh, author of Love Does Not Win Elections. I don't know if you've read the book, Aisha
No, no,
Osori.
no.
Oh yes, okay. So she was on a tour of universities around the country, and I was in the University of Jos at the time, and she came to the University of Jos. This woman had contested for I think, a seat representing one of the three House of Representatives seats in the FCT, and she
Mm,
contested and lost woefully after spending a lot of money. And she tried to capture her experience in a book titled Love Does Not Win Elections. And she mentioned in very capturing words how she encountered some of the most patriarchist personalities within her own political party who withstood her ambition and indeed her vision for a better representation at the National Assembly. And you could imagine that a woman who had had a stellar career in the World Bank and the United Nations was not given the opportunity to lead only because she was female. And that's what we've seen in societies that are backward in thinking, and Nigeria not excluded from that category, that classification, that when we allow those who have the capacity to lead, not looking at their gender, whether female or not, especially if they're female, because we've discovered that female leadership, according to research, verifiable research from the University of Calgary in Canada, that female leadership in the past 10 years, political leadership, has proven to be more effective than male leadership
exactly.
politically and even in the corporate world. And it's backed by a lot of statistics and evidence. So we've
Yes.
discovered that we could give such a chance to be more inclusive in representation. I don't want to go through a plethora of statistics showing in fact, let me just say that from 1999 to 2007, we've had well over 2,063 individuals in political positions, appointive and elective, across board, local government, state government, federal government. And it's funny to know that less than 5.6% of these 2,063 individuals have been women. That's very, just
That's
5.6%.
that's
So you do the
terrible.
math.
That's really
That is
terrible.
indeed terrible for a nation that wants more inclusivity, for a nation that has 50.6% of its population as women.
Yes.
It's sad to have 5.6% of its political positions, both appointive and elective, to be occupied by women in a space of at least 14 years. It is distasteful. And I think it's part of the reasons why we've had as much of a lack of leadership politically in Nigeria, and we've
Yeah.
seen how that has resulted. So the
Well,
bulk of our work is to bring in women groups, young youth groups, young people to come to the discussion table and draft ways of implementing this policy, because we're tired of more policies and white papers and blueprints. We want to implement them. We want to see these laws work.
mm, well, on the global scale, I think Africa is ranked third. Africa scores above the global average on women's political participation. And I think this is largely because of the Ethiopia and Rwanda. Ethiopia's president is female, and then Rwanda, and then South Africa, who kind of have achieved gender balance in its cabinet. But in Nigeria, it's totally different. I mean, even with the implementation of the recent judgment at the Federal High Court for the implementation of the affirmative action policy you mentioned earlier, it's quite disheartening that we still remain at 6%, 6%. And it seems like we're not even making progress, rather we're retrogressing. You mentioned earlier that the religious and cultural norms, practices have affected women's political participation. You also made mention of patriarchal practices. I would like to know what other issues do you think are causing this in Nigeria? What other challenges do you think we face as a nation in implementing even our policy? You said it was an ambitious, an ambitious policy, 35% above the global standard of 30%. So if we have people advocating for this and going that far as even getting judgment at the Federal High Court, what do you think then is the challenge we're having with implementation? If you have these policies on ground and you still need to go to court for it to be implemented, it shows that there's a friction somewhere. Who developed these policies is not a reflection of the state of the people's hearts. It's not a reflection of the minds of Nigerians. Was it just one person who feels women should have a better representation in appointive and elective offices, and then this person pushed for this policy, and then it can't be implemented because the majority of Nigerians don't believe in women's capacity? So I'd like to hear from you. What do you think are the issues we're facing? You mentioned two already. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? What other issues do you think Nigeria is facing?
Okay, before I go on elucidating or enumerating more of those issues, I want to say that this boils down back to the patriarchal system again. Because if you really want to bring up clear-cut legislative agenda to change the way women participate and to ensure that more women participate in the leadership of the country, you discover that it has to go back to the legislature. And this is a legislature that is also occupied by a largely male, do you get it? So
Yes,
it boils back
men
to
dominate the system and they set the rules.
exactly. Men are
Yeah.
dominating the system, and you're asking them, it's just like asking the rabbit to give up what he's holding so you could give up to other people. So that dominance is already, that's why we're saying when more women get into that system, up until the Third Republic, when people like Florence Itagiwa became senators, there were no women in the Nigerian Senate. 106 senators and barely 7 are women. So you have 90 plus senators male. How will a legislative agenda to include more women pass the bill? So this,
I think you're talking
it
about the
goes
gender
back.
bills.
You get it exactly. The gender
Yes.
bills. There were over about 14 of them at the National Assembly. None of them were passed. None of them were passed. The bill that was
And
requesting for go on.
for more seats. I mean, to think that this bill was not even asking that some of you should step down for us. The bill was asking that more seats be created, even more seats be created, and this should be occupied by women.
And be labeled
And
for
then,
women. Yeah.
and then it's quite funny though, because we had the wife of the president and the wife of the president at the National Assembly that they're advocating for the passage of this bill. So just go on. Sorry to cut you. Yes.
Right. So we had a high-ranking Nigerian politician from the ruling party mention once that his wife does not belong in the places where political decisions are meant to be made.
I mean,
His wife belongs
yeah.
to the kitchen, and in his words, the other room, as he said it. So you have somebody at that level of political power making such misogynistic statements, making such retrogressive descriptions of female leadership. how far can the country go? So we've already had people come out clear-cut, giving misogynistic statements saying that women cannot lead, that women should not lead. And this is the problem. Because until we're able to cure that mindset, that faulty mindset, that the rulership by men for all through men does not work. Because,
Yes.
of course, you know, recently I read an article that said once a woman is in politics, she's deemed to be shameful, shameless and promiscuous. That a woman being quiet and submissive is the height of elegance. And I think that is a really, really stupid description of what
But
it
but
should
but,
be.
but, but that but that, that re- that reflects the state of mind of a lot of Nigerians. I mean, this outright
And that's
discrimination
erroneous.
against women.
And that's erroneous. And that's erroneous. So that's why I think it boils also down back to illiteracy. Of this out Nigeria alone, a mental uneducated. So this is a problem. So illiteracy in itself is part of the problem. The fact that we cannot have a citizenry that is a citizenry that is educated, a citizenry that is investigative, a citizenry that questions. You know, Hausa people say "Metambaya baya pata." Why is that not so? But you discover that we have people who are so what's the word now? We've been so dominated by the political class that they feel they can pontificate what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So it means that they are saying, oh, vote for this person, not because, and that's why it's distasteful. Since 1999 till date, there has been no female governor in Nigeria. No female governor in Nigeria. No female governor in Nigeria. And
And
there
we've
has
had
been
people
no.
aspiring for these offices, to have females aspiring for those offices.
Exactly. And they have ended all as aspirants. And that's why I told you when we talked about successes of female participation, the only success we have encountered so far is successful attempt. An attempt, that's it. So we've had a situation where the challenges, the political parties are making it manifestly impossible for women to participate. You know, it's a funny phenomenon that most of their meetings happen at night. A responsible family woman would not be in a political meeting by 12 midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So I've even heard from some political shindigs that it is a deliberate way to, you know, exclude them from the conversations because they know they can't be out by that time. So you see
What
the
if men
problems
take up
boil
more
down.
care roles? Don't
Yeah,
you think it's possible to advocate for men to take up care roles at homes? Because this is an issue that is still being debated all across Nigeria. People say we can't have political meetings earlier than the time we have it. And then some people say, why not? Why not? We can have these meetings during the daytime. But they say, no, we can't have it because of the nature of the things being discussed. So I want to ask, why can't men take up care roles? Don't you think that's a good way to advocate for more women's participation in politics?
well,
So
I think
okay.
it's also part of the ideology and the idiosyncrasies we are trying to change, because I believe it's very doable and it's been done even by people in the U.S. The current Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, you know, has described her husband as very supportive and one who, you know, has been at the fore of her political career right from when she was at the Department of Justice all the way to the White House. So we've discussed discovered that there have been some of the successful political juggernauts that we've seen who are female are those who have had great support from home, great support from spouses, great support from family members. You see, people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, we have seen that her husband, who also has a stellar medical career, has also been, a part of that heavy support system in, hooting her horns to become how much of a political personality that she has been over time. So I believe that men can take up these care roles, but of course, we also live in a society deeply rooted in senseless cultural pitfalls. And some of these cultural pitfalls we're mentioning as those that were created by other men, once again. So they'll tell you it's custom and traditions. Meanwhile, these customs and traditions fell not from Mosaic law or anywhere else. They fell from the laps of a man.
Yes.
So it looks like
So,
it's calculated to exclude certain persons out of the conversations. Because I've said this before you take over. The three major political parties in the run-up to the 2023 elections, none of them have a woman on the presidential ticket. None of them. So on the APC's ticket, we have two men. On the PDP's ticket, we have two men. On the Labour Party's ticket, we have two men. Two men. The only daring political party to have ever picked a female as a presidential candidate.
okay, it seems like Mr. Chinedu is having network issues. Let's just wait for him for a few minutes. Okay. All right. I think we lost Mr. Chinedu. Oh, before he joins in, does anyone have a question for him? If you do, you can just type it out. Mr. George Hakim, Miss Alaze Dagel, Miss Sila Teresa. Do any of you have any comments or question for Mr. Chinedu? Okay,
Hello?
seems like we have him back.
Right. I have been speaking. I didn't even know that the network had decided
Oh,
to go on a frolic of its own.
so sorry about that. So sorry about that. Okay, I think you should attend to this. Judge Hakim posted, he's asking, apart from legislation, what other solutions have been provided by CSO, the civil society organizations, and NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to improve women participation in the polity?
Okay, great question, George. And I think being part of civil society myself, I think the major thing that civil society can do, because they are still civil society and not government, is advocacy, advocacy and grassroots mobilization. And it was this advocacy and grassroots mobilization that led to the creation of something like the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, NWTF. So the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, NWTF, has at the core of its vision to raise funds and support female political aspirants to get into office, because we've discovered one of the hindrances to their accession into political leadership is the inability to fund campaigns, and which we know in Nigeria, campaigns are quite the industry in billions of dollars. So it's really expensive, the cost of elections, and this sort of trust fund created by civil society and led by women like Ayesha Osori, the author of Love Does Not Win Elections, has also helped to ensure that women who are seen to have a true um, what do you call it, a true vision for political leadership has supported financially. CSOs like Yaga Africa have also created platforms for women political leaders to be trained. I believe that Dr. Obiageleze Kwesile recently launched the School of Politics and Government, SPPG, where she is currently training people, especially women who want to go into political leadership, who want to go into politics, on what to do. Because it's one thing to have the burden and desire to change things politically, is another thing to know how to do that. So you need also to be schooled appropriately to know how to handle the machinery of government, because we've had people who have the idea of what they want to do, they have a good heart, but they have no strategy and no tact at all. So when they get into those positions, they're easily manipulated, and after 8 years, they realize they've done nothing. So what we do in civil society, and even at credible elections for inclusive development, is to ensure that we're always at the dialogue table with women leaders, women participants, women in the electorate, women in civil society, even women in government, to ensure that there is a galvanization of a lot of support, drumming a lot of support for women, and also putting government on the hot seat, ensuring that government does not relax until things like the national gender policy are really implemented. Because it's not enough to have laws. The machinery of the executive is the implementation of laws passed by the legislature itself. So we want to see the executive executing these laws and doing their job, as taxpayers' money is used to make them very comfortable to do so. Yeah.
Well, speaking about CSOs and NGOs, now let's talk about government political institutions. Let's look at INEC, and then maybe take cognizance of the innovations of the Electoral Act of 2023. I know there's a provision that increases the threshold for monies to be expended in campaigns for various political office. What do you think is the progress we've made so far? That's the political institutions. What are they doing right? What will you say they've done right over time? And what do you think can be worked on?
All right, thank you for that question. INEC, I believe, as the political umpire, the electoral umpire rather, has been rebranded by this Electoral Act 2022. And we've seen, even from how the Osun State elections went, that INEC has set up itself to be a neutral umpire in such a way. But we've also discovered in recent weeks that people in high places are trying to hijack the integrity of INEC, as an institution in itself. And that's why we've seen, even from the Justice Uwais committee report of 2003, I believe, we've discovered that the recommendations Justice Uwais made in that white paper was the independence of INEC as an institution must be safeguarded to ensure that elections are not just free and fair, but credible. And if we intend for these elections to be credible, we must begin to look at the integrity of the electoral umpire, and not just in the laws that create them, but in the ways that the people in power are able to appoint resident electoral commissioners and national commissioners of the Independent National Electoral Commission. So we've discovered that there's a whole lot going on. Recently, the president nominated Loretta Onochie, who was his aide, one of his presidential aides, on media, very ferocious and vociferous woman, to become, a resident electoral commissioner of INEC. She was already partisan, and we know what the law says, that one who has, partisan inclinations, who has leanings towards a particular political ideology, should not, be allowed to fill in such positions because of the certainty, uncertainty of the neutral positions that the person may have. And we've discovered that she doesn't have those neutral positions. And she was able to whip up certain women's group to say, oh, we always wanted women to participate, and now you are saying a woman shouldn't participate. So the fact that we want women to participate doesn't mean that we want unqualified women to participate. We want qualified women in the life of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, in the likes of Obiageli Ezekwesili, in the likes of Remi Sonaya, professor and senior advocate of Nigeria, to participate in, the Nigerian electioneering process. And we want more to be done, not just about having people come up to be more inclusive, but having people who have the tact and having people who have the skill to lead, to participate.
Talking about skills and tact, some persons argue that women don't have access to quality education that they can occupy those seats. They don't have access to quality education, so they don't have rights to lead. So I would like you to comment on that. Do you think women don't have access to quality education in Nigeria, considering not every region of Nigeria?
Well, I believe that's a flimsy excuse, because we know very well that that could have been obtainable 20 years behind us, not in today's Nigeria. In today's Nigeria, 43.7% of the graduates churned out of federal institutions are women. 43.7%. And I know this because I lead the Education Conversations Africa project for Nigeria. And from these investigations, we've been able to decipher that most of these statistics that we've gotten about women in education, we've seen women in tech, women in STEM, we've seen that women participating in most of these areas, and even in corporate, on the boards of corporate organizations, on the boards of banks, on the boards of fintechs.
We've seen more women. You've called more than 3 ladies.
Exactly.
You've called more than 3 names of women. They are doing excellently well.
Outweigh. If we've had women sit on, women like Ibukun Awoshika sit on the board of First Bank and chair the board of a bank that is over a century old. We've had women, other women, great women, well educated. I don't think that's an excuse that there are uneducated women in Nigeria. I think it's a flimsy excuse. In fact, the excuse of leaders we've had since 1999, most of them are not educated to the level that we would expect for them to be educated to handle power. So why should that be a problem when it comes to women folk? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Maybe, okay, anyone with a question, you can just drop that. But before we let Mr. Chinedu go tonight, I'd like to ask maybe 2-3 more questions. What do you think is the implication of some of these policies? Looking at access to financial material resources for women, then yeah, and then the one of the innovations I mentioned earlier of the Electoral Act is that is the increase of the electoral the financial threshold for campaigns for some of these offices. What's the impact do you think that would have on women in Nigeria?
Well, I think we're not going to be dropping the standards. Even when we want them to be included, we don't drop the standards. Somebody once asked, why would you reject a female leader if there's no female exam scripts? There's no female exam script. There's no female exam question. When we give questions out, we give questions to both male and female. So there's no female marking scheme or male marking scheme. The marking scheme is available to everyone across gender. So why should the marking scheme electorally be different for women from men? But what we're saying is that since we've had women being marginalized over time from participating politically, we want to change the marking scheme for them to enable them participate more, to give them a level playing ground, or at least a playing ground supported by equity, if not a level playing ground, to be able to participate. So this in itself is the reason why I believe that increasing the threshold is only engendering more corruption. But at the end of the day also, it's only allowing them to bring political and electoral finances into limelight, because INEC wants to be able to know what has the PDP spent in the run up to the 2023 elections. From there, we're able to know, because in America, there's something called PAC funds, politically assisted funds. So these PAC funds, every party declares.
I think we're losing you. All right, I think his network is still misbehaving. Um, let me give him a few more minutes. That's Teresa and Alaze. Do you guys have any question before Mr. Chinedu joins in? So if you have any question you would like to ask. Okay, it seems like Mr. Chinedu has not realized that he has been disconnected from the conversation. Let's just give him 2 more minutes. If he doesn't come, then we'll just conclude. Oh, I believe we're enjoying the conversation.
Hello?
Okay, seems like Mr. Chinedu is back. Yes, welcome back.
I sincerely apologize. My network has been erratic, and I'm trying to find the root cause of that.
It's fine. It's fine. Oh, I don't think your video is turned on.
Really?
Yes, I can see you. Don't know if the others can see you.
Can you? Erratic, and
Yeah,
I'm trying to
I can
find
see you
the
now.
root cause of that. All right.
All right. So yes, I can't even remember where we stopped. Yes, but I think you were speaking. You were talking about the impact of the recent innovation, the Electoral Act that increases the threshold for um, campaign funds to be expended campaigns for various offices. So maybe you just wrap up your thoughts on that.
Yes, well, I believe that amongst the many interventions and innovations that uh, have been introduced through the new law, we've also had beavers, introduced as a new um, electoral system that technological system rather that electoral results will be transmitted so the results will be transmitted live. So we want to believe that as much as possible, we want to have women go to the grassroots and participate, go become card carrying members of political parties, become grassroots politicians, start from the grassroots, from the most important governments close to people. And I believe that these innovations allow for a level playing ground. And if we have more political players, female indeed, this could work. This could really work. I think media has done great work. If the film industry supporting the ideology, because before there was a Kamala Harris, there were over 50 movies that heralded the coming of a female
Mm,
president or vice president in America. And we've had many such movies in Nigeria coming up. The Fourth Republic, for example, by Griot Studios, um, where Kate Henshaw, acted as the first female governor in Nigeria. And by making these types of movies, we're planting ideas into the heads of Nigerians to become more comfortable
yes.
with the ideas that female presidents, female governors should become the order of the day and not a celebrated phenomenon once in a lifetime. Thank you.
Yeah. I think nobody asked the question, so this will be my final question. What do you think we can do more as government, as CSOs, as NGOs? What do you think we can do more? What do you think we can do more?
Well, I think we can do more because there are a lot of issues around female participation, from violence to harassment to intimidation, political intimidation, political intimidation and
Outright discrimination.
outright discrimination, victimization, stigmatization. All the nations come into play with their participation. So there's a lot we can do. We can have advocacy groups, and I believe that Ibijoke Faborede, the CEO of Elect Her is a foremost women electoral participation CSO focus group focusing on supporting women to participate in politics, because I believe if they are great homemakers, if they are great business partners. I don't see why they cannot be great political leaders. And we've seen these examples in nations like Finland that
Yeah.
have well over 60% of their legislatures as women. The prime minister is a woman, the former prime minister is a woman, and these are the countries that have the lowest debt crisis. These are the countries that had the least inflation crisis. And we've seen tried and tested leadership even from people like the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who led Germany well for over a decade and really has been called on to be as one of the best leaders of the millennium. So we understand that there is potential
Even
that
around
we could.
Africa, we see this. Yeah.
Indeed, even in Africa, in Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, has been a shining star. And even though Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has not been president, but she has, stepped into
She
shoes
has like,
that
yeah.
we've discovered the woman can do great things. And even people who are late, posthumous credit must be given to people like Dr. Dora Konyele, who stepped into, stepped into and stepped on many toes, while Director General of NAFDAC. And so we've seen more and more
It's
people.
NSF.
So there's an initiative now, I think it's a fellowship called the Dora Konyele Fellowship. I'm not really sure if it's already out or if it's still an idea, but there's something called the Dora Konyele Fellowship. There's something else, there's another fellowship, I'm trying to remember the name now, where they're trying to raise up female political leaders from universities,
Wow.
political grassroots mobilizers from universities, from polytechnics, monotechnics, like that, to get
Mm.
them involved in the political
Empower
process.
them. Yeah.
Empower them, sensitize them, indoctrinate them into the need to be out there, to become public, to become involved. Because you don't just appear from nowhere like they came here, Deoshuns, and expect to, take over. No, you have to really be in it to be able to rise from it. So I think that is the first step. What we do is to galvanize as much support as we can to make sure that women are meaningfully engaged, and not just in elective positions, in appointive positions
Not
also. Nigeria has
positions.
about 147 corporate boards across, ministries, departments, and agencies,
Public
and we've
sector.
discovered, yes, in the public service, we've discovered that it's been a trend that there's been very little appointments, female appointments into those, corporate boards, and the corporate boards themselves are less than functional. So there's more to be done to put them into public service, into civil service, into the military. That's another place entirely. But this is focusing on
A lot
political.
has been done. A lot has been done. I think. Well, you started by saying we've been successful with just our attempts, or the only thing we've been successful at is our attempts. Yeah. So, but now talking about the military shows that we've come a long way. We've come a long way, and I believe there's hope. There's hope for Nigeria. There's hope for
I believe
Nigeria.
so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chinedu. It was an amazing time with you. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you for all the works you do at your various NGOs, credible elections for inclusive development, and Greater Nigeria Initiative. Thank you very much. It's an honor having
Thank
you
you very
tonight,
much for having
and
me.
we hope to have more of you going forward.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is mine. It was a very wonderful and engaging conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do have a restful night, and thank you to all the participants. Thank you, George. Thank you, Sila Teresa. Thank you, Alaze. Thank you, Kingsley. Do have a lovely night rest, and don't forget, the voice is very, very much needed. Enjoy.
Thank you.